Welcome to another scintillating conversation with Deborah, bi-coastal. What is it? I always want to say bilingual, but it's a bi-coastal conversation.
Well, you're speaking on the Democratic side. I'm speaking as well as on the Republican side, but I consider myself to be an independent. Okay?
I'm speaking on the side of truth.
Very good, and I am too. Rather, wait a minute, fact or truth? Biden was talking about the fact he prefers fact rather than truth, but be that what it may. It is Friday, December the 4th. We are coming up on Christmas. This is fabulous. I love Christmas. It's one of my favorite times of the year, besides Easter. But how's everything with you, Malcolm?
A little iffy. I don't know if I told you the last time that my son's girlfriend tested positive for COVID.
How long ago?
Last week.
Okay, and she's been...
No, she's asymptomatic. And
Good.
he took his test, the other day, and he came back negative, but he's gonna take another one. And me and my wife have taken tests yesterday, so we haven't gotten results yet. But again,
And how do you feel?
I feel fine, except again, it might be psychologically, my throat is beginning to annoy me.
Okay.
But I'm very receptive to suggestion, so.
Well, the one thing I would suggest, and this was prior to COVID really be, hitting the headlines. I think I got it the first part of February. I was hit by something I had never really experienced before, and I was having problems breathing.
I have to adjust the light a little bit, I think. Anyway, continue.
You all right?
Yeah.
And I had what I think I really do think it was COVID. One of the things that and I almost went to the hospital. One of the things that really helped me out, and I know this sounds crazy, but I started taking enormous amounts of zinc, because zinc always helps with a cold, a lot of vitamin D, vitamin Bs, and I had to rest for about 14 days. About 14 days.
You probably had a mild case.
Tests coming out, and we still don't know, and it's far enough away that there's no way of knowing whether I got it or not. But if you did, my friend, I don't want to lose you. So extra zinc, extra vitamin D, and vitamin B. It really made a difference for me.
Well, what I'm doing also, which I don't know whether it helps or not, I believe that the body can cure itself of anything.
I agree.
So when I meditate, I meditate twice a day from.
Good for you.
Good transcendental meditation. I've been doing it for about 50 years already. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. Maybe I'm fooling myself, but I'm telling my body to send out the antibodies.
No,
it's the white blood, the white blood corpuscles are the ones that come in and fight disease.
You're not fooling yourself. I don't care what anybody says. I know that when my late husband got so ill that we did the exact same thing. We did it not as meditation, but we did it as quiet time, and it does make a difference. And people talk about change, prayer chains, and those things do work, because what it does is it focuses your energy. We have tremendous capability. We have no idea how we can use it, except when we have the quiet time. And you're 100% correct. I do the exact same thing. I have quiet time in the morning, quiet time in the evening. I don't call it meditation, but it's just an ability to be able to have the body heal itself, become more conscious, and especially as we're aging, like they say, getting old is not for the faint of heart.
Well, as I say, getting old is not for the young.
No.
Whatever the hell that means.
Whatever the hell that means.
But anyway, before
go ahead.
Going back into our politics, I just wanted to bring something up with which I mentioned earlier of some of the accomplishments of Obama during his 8 years as president.
Now, why in the world would you bring up the accomplishments of Obama unless you feel as though Biden is going to be Obama's third term? Is that what you're?
No, because, well, number one, yes, I think he's bringing in a lot of Obama people, which I think is good, because I think he had a very successful presidency.
The difference,
and I think
they are business people, And the Obama people and the Biden people are more academicians. So we have more people who talk about doing things rather than business people who actually do
No,
things.
but they did it because a big thing that Trump said and Trump supporters have always done is they say, we suffered 8 years under Obama. Okay,
Well,
the day Obama took office, the Dow closed at 7,949 points. 8 years later, the Dow has almost tripled. General Motors and Chrysler were on the brink of bankruptcy, with Ford not far behind. And their failure, along with the supply chain, was meant the loss of millions of jobs. Obama pushed through a controversial $80 billion bailout to save the car industry. The car industry survived, started making money again. The entire $80 billion was paid back with interest.
mhm.
Obama ordered the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. He drew down the number of troops from 180,000 in Iraq and Afghanistan to just 15,000 and increased
And Joe
funding.
Biden did not want to go on that raid of Osama bin Laden. You remember that,
Well,
don't
I'm
you?
talking about Obama.
I'm
he did
talking
it.
about, I'm adding the fact that we have a third term of Obama coming in, and Mr. Biden did not want to have Osama bin Laden's eliminated.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. He launched a program called Open Doors, which since 2010 has led to 47% in decline in the number of homeless veterans. He set a record 73 straight months of private sector job growth. And there's a whole list, which I'm not going to go on, but basically he was a very positive president. A lot of positive things happened. He inherited a country that was in the tubes, basically a lot because of the Iraqi war and a mistake that George Bush put us into. So we were
I have
on
to
the,
agree. I
we-
have to agree. I never supported the Iraqi war,
right.
despite
Plus,
the fact that Powell talked about weapons of mass destruction, which of course was a complete,
right, right,
it was a lie.
right. And but for whatever, Trump, it reminds me of, doublethink from 1984. You say a lie often enough, people believe it. Now you have a whole group of, Trump supporters that think Obama was a bad president. And without now, okay, that's history. Now, whether Biden is going to have an Obama third term might be good. I'm not against that. I'm against
The problem that I had was the overregulation of business. I have long said, and this is one of the reasons that my husband and I came to South Carolina,
Yeah.
there needs to be a partnership. And this brings into the whole idea of the New South, which is one of the topics I want to talk about. But it is the blending of private business with government and a true partnership. It is not the government lording over private business, and it's not the business going wild, all right? So here in South Carolina, when NAFTA went into effect, it literally shut down this economy, completely, utterly shut down the economy. This economy here was based on mills, clothing, manufacturing, mostly clothing, mostly cloth. And when the NAFTA went into effect, it pretty well shut everything down. That was in the 80s and in the 90s. Beginning in the 2000s, someone had the idea, thank heavens, that you need to utilize government and utilize private business. So what they did was they used tax credits, not handouts to the businesses, but tax credits. They were able to bring in BMW, Michelin, the Fluor Corporation, which does engineering, what have you, GE, a whole variety of really substantial manufacturing companies. They did it with tax credits, which meant that you don't have any money up front. What you do is say, fine, we're not going to tax you on your profits. You need to bring your facilities here. You need to hire people in South Carolina and in North Carolina. And then you need to, at that point, we'll start to, once it's profitable, we'll go ahead and we'll start to very gently start to tax you. What here was the government private enterprise here made the middle class flourish. And it also brought up the lower middle class with jobs, with opportunities, with housing that's affordable. And one of the reasons that, once again, that when I looked at this, I was stunned. I didn't realize that South Carolina, because I always had the preconceived notion, the South. Oh my gosh, I thought Deliverance, the movie, and all of that. But it's not that way at all. The concept that they had is, once again, it's a carrot rather than a stick. And the problem that I have with Obama is I don't like to have a stick put onto American companies or onto the American people. We need the middle class. They need us, and we're middle class. They need us more than we essentially need them, because we're the ones that power this economy. So what's happened here in South Carolina and in North Carolina is a really interesting situation where you now have international businesses that are coming to all kinds of people. The other thing that's very interesting, and one little last point, is that the universities, as well as the junior colleges, are now working hand in hand with the corporations and with the government to make sure that the training for the students is tailored to whatever area they want to go into in terms of manufacturing, in terms of logistics, in terms of statistical analysis, financial, marketing. They are working hand in hand with the industries here so that these new students that are coming out have immediate employment. That is what I want to see for the rest of the country. I don't want to see the government telling us what to do and when to do it. They don't know what they're doing.
When did this start?
This started in 2000.
Okay. Well, that was under then the Bush administration, or?
Bush, yeah, but once again, it had nothing to do with the president. It had to do with the local politicians that were here. And we have a Mayor White, that made unbelievable steps forward. For example, they decided to take an overpass that had been put in place in the 1960s that completely bisected Greenville into this haves and have-nots. Well, they got rid of this overpass, and what did they do with it? They turned it into what's called Falls Park. They had an artist put together the most fantastic bridge you've ever seen that spans over the Reedy River, which is the main river that was used in the past for many of the manufacturing of cloth and fabrics. It's gorgeous now. It's more friendly than I have ever seen anything in California.
Okay.
All of the town, for example, is human size. They are asking that the buildings not go above 6 or 7 stories. And that's what we have here in Greenville. It's human size.
Wait, so now you said this started about the year 2000?
It's 2000, and it's kept on,
It was under
obviously.
Bush. So when Obama kept in, he just knocked it all down. He came in 2008 to 2016, right?
No. Once again,
So it continued.
Greenville did not want to have federal interference. Greenville worked with the private entities, and Greenville was the one that offered the tax credits. The county and the city offered the tax credits so that these international companies would come to South Carolina.
Okay.
And also, North Carolina is now joining the whole idea of the Carolinas.
But no, yeah, but what I'm saying,
National companies.
but what I'm saying, that continued through the 8 years of the Obama administration.
Mhm.
He didn't all of a sudden say, no, this is no good, we have to take over. He let that
No,
happen.
but
But the question is,
at this point right now, because at that time I was living in California. My late husband was still alive at that time. And we could see the overregulation that was going on. So for example, in Santa Barbara, we were told that we could not use water. We would only be allowed 5 gallons per week, whatever the case may be. And the reason is because they were allowing the waters from Lake Kachuma to be released. Why? Because there was a salamander that needed to be given water. Those types of regulations ignore the needs of people. Now, I adore salamanders, but I like people more. And people need to be the priority at this point right now. We need to live in perfect harmony, but I cannot see denying people jobs. I cannot see people being denied housing to help salamanders. It doesn't make any sense.
I agree to a certain amount of what you say, but each species that we have has a purpose. And if we destroy
Yeah,
those species,
human beings have a
human beings
purpose.
have, yeah, but we can control more than the animal world. In fact, there was something in today's paper about the salmons, and I think it was called the coho salmon. That half
The
of
best
them
the
were
best
killed.
salmon in the world. They're
Right,
fantastic.
and they were killed from the pollution. Well, from tires. Automotive tires have a certain chemical in them
Disgusting, disgusting,
that they were dying from that. And also,
disgusting.
I was involved with something called Hilda Bay in Santa Monica Bay.
Mhm, mhm.
In Santa Monica, it was the pollution was killing it. Now it had to have the government come in and make regulations. Why? Because big business weren't going to regulate it because
I have to agree.
it meant that the
I have-
corporations would lose money. So I agree with you. There has to be a balance. But
And
most,
that's where I got my award from the Radio Television News
Right.
Directors Association for a 7-part series on the hazardous waste that was up in Fullerton. We forced the EPA Superfund to clean up that whole area.
right,
And the homeowners didn't want to do it, and Chevron didn't want to do it. We forced them to do it.
right. So who does Trump hire as the head of the EPA? He hires the man, I forget his name, that was against the EPA, that has filed lawsuits against them so they cannot make regulations. I agree
Well,
you can't have one taking over the other, but you can't have someone that says we don't want regulations at all. The people that he has hired for the various different cabinet posts are people who were against that type of regulations. Even the education, Betty DeVos. Betty DeVos was not for public education. She never was. She was for charter schools and taking that money and going to private schools. Now, I am a product of New York City. I think we talked about it the last show, of public education.
Yep.
Of public supported colleges. And we need that. That's where if you go in New York City, the immigrant families, this is where they've learned. This is where they went to public colleges, not private colleges. Now, yes,
I agree, but I have to tell you at this point right now, when we are, for example, fighting a teachers union that is not allowing the schools to open up, when we have science telling us that there is a very, very low incidence of COVID, and yet we continue to have the schools shut, I just kind of scratch my head. I think what I'd like to see is we need to educate our folks. We need to educate our children. And I don't agree, and I'm not in the inner city, but I do understand in the inner city, the quality of education there is ruled by the teachers union. And the problem with that is we need good quality education. We don't need to have more victims. We need to have people who want to work, who want to contribute, and let them start businesses that go ahead and service that community rather than having them on the public dole.
Right,
We
well,
need that feeling of entrepreneurship. And I'm concerned about that in fact, the Obama administration preferred to have people on the dole. And I'm concerned that the Biden administration will have people on the dole.
Well, I don't see where that is involved with the education, because the number one, I agree with you. The teachers unions have become too strong. In fact, almost.
What do we do?
No,
and let's talk about that. What do we do about the teachers union so that we're fair to the teachers? Because I'm pro teacher, but I'm very concerned about the unions.
Right. But do you go opposite? Do you say, okay, we won't have,
No.
we'll give each family a certain amount to send the kids to private school? There's never going to be an equal distribution of money that poor people or even middle-class people can afford private schools. We have some private schools here, Harvard Westlake, for I think elementary school. Now, this is, from kindergarten through sixth grade, I think it's about $30,000 a student. And it goes up to about 60 to high school. Now, that is never going to that is never going to, the rich people are going to be going to that school, not the poor people.
Well,
And he's
we have a responsibility to keep America strong, and we need to have
definitely, but it's not necessarily getting rid of the public school
educated, young
system,
people
going to
educated. It's got to be a priority.
right, but it's not necessarily destroying the public school system, because the more we give to private schools, the more we give to charter schools, the less money goes into public schools. Public schools
Well,
is the way this country grew.
Yes, but it's been cannibalized at this point right now.
Oh
So
yeah,
I understand the concept of charter schools. I'm a little reluctant to support charter schools entirely, although I know my dear husband currently does support charter schools. I want to make sure that the education we need to have, for example, we went to Walmart yesterday, all right? And I needed some molasses to go ahead and to do some Christmas cookies. And we asked a young man, where is your molasses? And he looked at us blankly and said, the what? I said, no, molasses. It's a syrup. And he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Now, that's just a little stupid story, but he doesn't understand what molasses is. I don't understand. I don't understand why we are not teaching our kids some of the basics.
No, that's not involved teaching. That's involved with the stores like Walmart or any of the supermarkets or any of those type of stores, where they do not hire full-time people now. What they do is they hire part-time people, because the part-time people, they don't have to pay all the other monies, of health insurance and whatever, perks that full-time people have. So they only hire part-time people. And these part-time
Well,
kids,
even a part-time person,
they're not trained.
even a part-time person should know what molasses is.
Well, that's one example, but on anything,
It's like,
they're not trained on what to do. They're not, when you go into I used to love one of my favorite stores, in fact, is my first credit card was Bloomingdale's in New York on 59th Street. And
oh my God. Oh my gosh.
you go there, all these salespeople were dressed. There wasn't uniforms, but they were dressed, very tastefully dressed. If I went to the men's department, I said, yeah, I like to look at Gucci pants or whatever they had. He would say, well, I don't think you should look at Gucci, because that's not, that's a low waist and you have a high waist, or you have short legs or long legs, or the jackets aren't fitted right. They knew their they knew their merchandise. You go in now to Macy's and you ask, it's like asking for molasses. You ask the clerk and they'll say, I'll say, what does that product do? They'll say, I don't know.
Do to solve a situation like that. I think that is, I'm very, very concerned about that. And I feel as though we, as our generation, are responsible for that.
No, definitely.
We made sure that our young people, the people that are coming up to replace us when we pass on, have these basic skills.
Deborah, no one can replace you. I'm sorry.
What's that?
No one can replace you.
Oh, and you too.
You're irreplaceable. Yeah, but anyway, and to me, there's a certain dumbing down of education.
Yeah.
But a lot of the things you say, molasses, I don't know when the last time, I know what it is, but I don't know the last time I heard the word molasses.
But you know the word.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things that are germane to their generation that we don't know about.
I understand.
The same thing. It's like in Facebook, they said, if you bring a phone in, that has a dial on it, or you bring a television in that doesn't have a remote, where the kids know how to use it.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It's the same thing. There's certain things that my kids who are in their 20s, do with the computer or the phone or the cell phone, that it's not in my, I don't know what they do. They show me and I say, really? You do that?
But I bet they know the word molasses.
I don't know. If they were home, I'd ask them. But the thing which again, and I think going back to politics and knocking your favorite to Trump, I don't see how. When I saw the press conference or the with Biden and Harris, they're bringing back civility again in politics. They're not.
Well,
They're not boasting of their own accomplishments. They're bringing civility.
The problem with civility is that it can be completely useless. We're in a very difficult situation right now. And to be civil to China, to be civil to Russia, to be civil to Iran, these are countries that don't understand civility. And it's a nice concept, but it's an outdated concept, perhaps like what your kids feel that you don't understand about computers. The problem that we have at this point right now, and I'm going to bring it now up to the whole idea of this election situation, and I want you to be concerned counting information that I'm seeing that there were some severe irregularities. The videotape, which was a security camera that was taken from Georgia, from their main counting area, where the supervisor shooed out everybody saying, we've stopped counting for the evening, and then proceeds to continue counting by taking ballots that were hidden underneath a table in suitcases, 5 or 6 big suitcases that were rolled up to the ballot trays. That concerns me. I'm wondering, why would they shoo away people? What are they doing counting ballots? And I want to know, what in the world are ballots doing in suitcases?
Okay.
Do you think that's interesting?
No, but my main question would be, in that case, the local government and the Board of Elections in Georgia is controlled by Republicans. The governor, the secretary of state, the one who's in charge of elections. Why are they saying, oh, that's true, and we cannot count it? Why have they certified the elections? Is it a bit conspiracy, or I don't know what you think of Sidney Powell, but I think she.
All I want to do, I want to see evidence.
Okay,
and at this
well, I want to see evidence.
I'm starting to see some evidence when I see ballots that were stuffed into suitcases, 5 or 6 suitcases that were then placed underneath a table. People are shooed out. There are only 4 or 5 poll workers left in there, and they're now putting these ballots being counted.
Okay.
I'm scratching my head going,
okay. My question is, let's say it's true what you said, right? Why isn't the Republican Party of Georgia picking up on that?
I understand they are.
They aren't. Everything has been certified, as far as I know, and they had the
they've gone back and said, you're right. We got a serious problem.
I haven't heard that where they.
The security, it came down this morning, but the security camera images, these are date stamped and time stamped. You cannot change those. That's the reason.
You can change anything.
No, you can't with these.
Well, I don't know. I know that I don't know. I know that if I have somebody looking at your tape or you're talking about right now, and I had someone that knew computers and things, they could make you saying, Trump is the most dishonest president we ever had. Have you seen some of those doctored videos that they've had on television? I could make you say anything.
Security tape, ballots placed into.
But anyway, until today, I have not heard, and I haven't read the news today. I haven't seen the news, but I have not heard of any of the top Georgian people say that there's a mistake. The only thing that I heard, both from the governor, secretary of state, the fact that it's a valid election. I haven't,
Well, the other,
I've heard
the other issue we have is that in Michigan, we have apparently enough suspect ballots to possibly overturn the election. Apparently the same situation in Nevada. There may be enough ballots to overturn the election. And once again, I want to see evidence, and they're coming up with more and more evidence.
Well,
where
why hasn't any of the
is.
courts picked up on this? He's been about 40 lawsuits that have been thrown out. Why are the only two people saying this is Giuliani and Powell?
Well, interestingly enough, I understand that the reason that they didn't want to necessarily, the judges didn't want to see the evidence. I'm satisfied with the fact that there are now hearings being placed in front of state lawmakers in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Philadelphia, in hopefully in Arizona, but in Georgia. There is now evidence being presented to the lawmakers so that they can then go ahead and make a decision. I think it needs to be a bigger decision than a simple judge who can simply, on an arbitrary idea, overturn an election.
So it has
We
to be
need evidence.
so it has to be two lawmakers that
No. You've got a host of law.
well, Trump has, I think it was from Michigan, two of the legislators from Michigan that invited to the White House, because there are two people who could have not certified the election. So now what he wants to do is have the people, the legislatures, negate the election, and they alone can choose who the who the electoral votes go to. So in other words, the people in Georgia or Michigan, their legislature can say, okay, let's forget about the facts. It's a phony election, and
Let me ask you,
we're gonna give electoral votes to.
let me ask you a question. Are you at all concerned when you see security tape where poll workers are pulling ballots out from underneath the table that was hidden? Ballots were put into suitcases, and then when everybody was shooed out of the building, those ballots then were run through after she told everyone, we have stopped counting. Does that seem a little suspicious to you?
Well, yeah, if it's that's the way you said it was, but I'm a believer that I don't know everything. I listen to news. I read the newspapers. I don't think that the news is fake news. Anything that's negative to Trump, it becomes fake news. It's not real. This last week where they had something about the buying pardons. I mean, his response to that is fake news. Now, I'm also, as you, I grew up where the the New York Times was the Bible. It was in the New York Times. It meant that it was an authentic news story. It's been vetted out. It's been checked twice. You always see what, the Watergate thing and the movie. You've seen the movie.
Of course.
President's Men, and you've seen how they checked it and double check it and have to.
Yep.
You
mean the Washington Post before it went.
Now, again, I don't see. Again, what you say might be right, but so far there's no other people that are backing what you said aside from the president's people, sort of maniacal. Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Sean Hannity, Tucker Frederickson, Tucker Carlson. Tucker Frederickson, I think, was a linebacker for the New York Giants. But
very good.
Tucker Carlson, and they are off the wall. I mean, what they have, I totally don't believe. I listen to them so I could say, "Are you out of your effing mind?" And Trump is the one who listens to Hannity. Anyway, I hate to say this. I don't hate to say it, but our time is up.
Yeah. Doggone it.
We'll do it Tuesday again.
Tuesday sounds good. We'll apparently there will be more evidence presented, and I hope that this was a good, solid election. My fear is that it was controlled by the vendors, and it was controlled by corrupt poll workers, and it really concerns me. My vote is as important as your vote, which is as important as my vote. And the American public needs to be assured that this was a good, solid election. And there are some very odd things that are going on. And we didn't even see this in 2016. We didn't see this kind of haranguing. We didn't see this kind of haranguing even in 2018. Why are we seeing this kind of haranguing now?
Well,
Because
let's, well,
something
again,
happened.
again, when there are more backers to it than this very pro-Trump people, when you have people who are Republicans, who were judges that were appointed by Trump, when they say, yes, you have valid reasons for doubting the election. So far, no one has come up with that. Anyway,
Well, please read,
I-
please,
I'll keep my mind open.
please do.
I'll
All right.
see. I'll see. Have a great weekend. Bye.